All right, welcome to the Noble Shire for Progressive Discussion here at Progressive Rock Central. Thank you, Mark Barrett, the lead vocalist, and Steve Smith, the keyboardist of the Zen Orchestra, for taking time out of their busy days to discuss their self-titled debut album. The album was released on September 20th. And it is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't heard this or you haven't heard of these guys yet, what are you waiting for? They're going to tell you a lot about them today. And it's a fantastic band. This album was 10 years in the making, and they're going to explain that to you here in a few minutes. Why don't you guys just say hi and where you're from? And then the big question is going to be, well, let's do that first. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm based in Luton in Bedfordshire in the UK.
Oh, hi there, I'm Steve Smith, and I'm based in County Meath in Ireland, Republic of Ireland. Originally from Luton, however, but moved to Ireland at the beginning of the 2000s. Hi, everybody.
Mark, could you bring your volume up just a little bit? It's not terrible, but it's a little hard to hear. All right, and so these guys are here with me to talk about this album. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about how you got together, how the band emerged, evolved, and then you can also discuss that 10-year waiting period. And they lost one of their integral players who was very important to the band, and it's a tough time. And when you do lose somebody like that, hey, look at Led Zeppelin. That was it. That was the end of it. But these guys, pushed on and finished. But it's always tough. So whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Well, Steve, you got me into
this. Yeah. Well, Well, I first met Mark, back in the early 1980s in Luton, and we were just sort of doing the rounds on the local music scene. And I think we were in a rehearsal room for some other band or something. I just came along to watch it, and I saw Mark there, and I thought, yeah, he looks like a good front man. He was everything that I wasn't. He was kind of brash and bold and full of himself, and also not a bad singer. And I was a few years younger than him at the time. But anyway, I kind of kept a mental note of Mark, and I'd been in a couple of other bands, and then they sort of fizzled out. And then myself and Mark got a band together, late 80s, called Walking on Ice, and we wrote a lot of material for that band and took it out on the road a lot. I think we did a lot of gigs during that period, and then for one reason or another, in a year, we were holding down day jobs as well, and for whatever reason, it fizzled out, and some of the other guys carried on, and some didn't, and what have you. But that myself and Mark sort of departed that band for various reasons, and then we got back together doing a bit of writing. We decided to sort of leave the live scene behind a bit and focus on recording, and out of that, in the late 80s came Zen Orchestra #1, where we did a 4-track EP. Using sort of old reel-to-reel recording and old MIDI computers and old Ataris and stuff like that. We come up with some good stuff. There was a little bit of record company interest, but it didn't take off. And as these things do, it kind of fizzled. I moved to Ireland. I think personal lives and commitments, kind of took hold for a bit. And then I kind of started to get fidgety round about the mid 2000s and really missed playing music and writing and talking about music with like-minded people. I just really missed that. And so I started to get back in touch with Mark, and I kind of stalked him for a bit saying, hey, Mark, I'm thinking of doing this stuff, and here's this little idea. And I sent him a few bones of ideas, and eventually I kind of wooed him into having a go at this properly, by which time I'd come up with pretty much an album's worth of chunks of music that you kind of liked and thought, okay, I think I can do something with this. And so Mark got his pair of scissors out and started cutting, my ideas up, which I'm fine with because that's how we work. That's how we worked back in previous
But I
bands.
was terrified. I was
Yeah,
terrified
yeah.
because I had this stuff and I thought, well, okay, fine, I'm going to do something with it and craft, because they were beautiful pieces of music, but they weren't really songs or
No,
whatever.
and
So,
they were massive. They were like that. You think our songs were long on this album? They were twice as long in some respects. And
so
this,
I'm not
yeah.
against
So
Mom. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
was
Mark, take over from
terrified.
there. Yeah, yeah.
I thought I'm going to do this stuff, and I sent it back, and like I was
Yeah.
thinking he's either going to love it or he's going to hate it. But it
Yeah.
turned out okay.
But yeah, I mean, because I was just desperate for this stuff to become music that a band could play. When things weren't looking so good, and I wasn't sure whether Mark was going to bite. I was thinking, well, maybe I can do like a solo thing, like sort of electronica, a mixture of Jean-Michel Jarre and Tangerine Dream and that kind of thing, but with a prog twist. But everything I came up with just sounded like a demo, like a demo for a band. That's how I work. I'd come up with a chunk of chords and a chunk of bass and guitar ideas and drums, on machine, and say, lads, can you do this and can you do that? And Mark, come up with some singing and melodies for me, because Mark came back then with edited versions of the stuff with these fantastic melodies and lyrics. Because Mark writes his own melodies now. There's not many people realize that Mark's a singer and a writer too, very much so. And the songs, I thought, yeah, these are starting to take shape, and they got cut a bit shorter, some were a bit longer, and and then we got a few other members on board, didn't we? We got Stuart's interest and Steve Ricks's interest, and a few guitarists came and went. And it was a long process, really. The writing process actually wasn't the longest part of this. I know that it did take 10 years, and I kind of choke when I say that. Did it really take that long? But the writing process wasn't that long. But because I was located in Ireland, I was in Luton, we had to sort of merge technologies to actually get the stuff properly recorded, because this wasn't.
I mean, I really didn't give you an answer for probably a year.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
it that long? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was about a year before I even said, yeah, I'm going to do something, and then it took me longer to do it, and so it was a couple of years before we even had any material.
Yeah, but I kind of kept going in the background, and then sort of COVID hit, and there was a few health issues between us both. But I kind of and then it went quiet. But while in the quiet periods, I kept on going by sort of writing the second layer of keyboards. Taking some of your rough, because Mark, I should say that Mark contributes keyboard ideas and orchestration ideas, which I usually go, oh, God, what's he doing now? What's he doing? What's he doing to my stuff now? And I get really grumpy, and then I'll take the ideas away and I'll perfect them and write them properly, if you like, and then. Yeah, I think these are really.
And then
say
they're yours.
Yeah, and then I say, actually, yeah, I wrote that. No, and then I think, yeah, no, he was right. And so Mark pushes me as a producer. I mean, we're both credited as producers, and I have my harpenneth as well. But Mark will often push me. I'm jumping forward a bit now towards the new album, but so the problems with timing really was around the technology, because I'd written a lot of my stuff on like a workstation keyboard that acts as everything, and all singing, all dancing, little studio. But we had to get that into proper digital recording medium, because this wasn't just going to be a demo. We wanted this to be a proper piece of recorded work. Which we'd never really done before. We'd been, the thing you do, you turn up at a rehearsal room, you get gigs, you do a demo that sounds like your gigs, and that's it. We'd never really ever taken it a step forward and come up with some imaginative piece of recording. And so that was really the goal. We weren't really planning on playing live. It was to come up with something really interesting and well recorded. And so that took a lot of work on technology. So we were firing files backwards and forwards. Mark was being driven demented in his little studio in Luton, which is really the hub of the recording centre, and we're all learning every day something new and how to do this, weren't we, Mark? And we got there in the end.
There was a real learning curve on because I mean, typical me and my big mouth, I said, oh, we're not just going to do a demo, we're going to do an album, we're going to and with only having a kind of general idea on how to do it. So we had to figure that out, and we did, and you know, we'll probably do a video about it at some point, I guess.
Yeah,
but or a
it
feature
would have
film.
been.
No, let's make it a feature film. No.
Yeah.
So it was really a case of let's just see how far we can push this.
Yeah, we want to make it interesting.
Do you write all the lyrics, or do you guys both combine to do that?
No, I tend to write. Well, I write the. Yeah, I write the. Well, we kind of work together, really. But I mean, generally speaking, I will write the melodies and the lyrics.
Definitely, yeah.
And you know, and sometimes, you know, maybe I'll contribute a little musical idea or something, which Steve will then go away and play properly. Because although I can play a bit of guitar and what have you, and a little bit of keyboards, I'm not a keyboard player, nor am I a guitarist. So,
but that can be really exciting though, because you're not a keyboard player. When you come up with like keyboard ideas, I mean, and in fairness, Heartless, the track Heartless on the album was a lot of your writing, and I'd get this demo on a digital recording system, and I'd look at what notes is he playing there, what's he doing with those chords, what are those chords, you know? And so these different sounds you were coming up with different sounds because you didn't have that kind of, you didn't know what you were doing. And you know, and as a consequence, it gave me a challenge, and I think it sounds good, and it's it's original stuff. It's nice to get away from me knowing all the chords, kind of thing, you know.
Although
it's nice to have a bit of mystery there.
We describe you. That's how we describe you. This is Steve. He knows all the chords.
I know all the chords.
But no, I mean, I guess it's a kind of filter system, isn't it? Where you know, you'll do something and it goes through the Mark filter. And then I'll do something and it goes through the Steve
filter. It comes back out the other end like a sausage machine.
So
yeah,
it's hard to say who wrote what. You get to the point where it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, certainly towards the end of the mixing, we were throwing ideas around. I mean, like Faces was practically completely rewritten from a verse chorus point of view. But I must have been in a good mood. I think it was Christmas Eve. He sent me over the idea for the new verse, and I must have been in a good mood because I just went, yeah, that sounds great, as opposed to what have he done now? You know, because I kind of had my doubts a little bit about the original version of that. I couldn't even tell you how it went, to be honest with you, because once you got that new rhythmic, you got that rhythmic sort of Gabriel-esque kind of flavour to it, and I thought, yeah, this sounds good. And there was a new melody over the chorus chords. And so in those last months of working on the stuff and the mixing, there was a lot of inspiration going on. I mean, I'm usually fairly sort of staid and organised in what I do, but when you'd suggest to me, I'll put an organ bit over that bit, and I'd sort of huff and puff a bit because it means more work for me. But then I was actually in the mode of hitting the record button and just kind of went for it. And a lot of particularly the organ bits, I think, on the tracks were done in the last few months, and were a lot of fun to play for me, and were quite inspirational and off the cuff. And just don't ask me to play them again because I can remember what they were. But you know, and that was good because up until that point, everything was very prescriptive, and I'd come up with this, and it was already in the recording system, and you know, and you know, it's not going to be changed. But when we started to fiddle around with stuff, that's really when things went up to another level. And also the lads. James' guitar work made me go up a level because he's a brilliant guitarist, and you know, he'd come up with his solos, and I'd sort of be like, you know, right, I better start coming up with some other ideas. So I replayed a couple of solos here and there, and you know, that's what comes from our maturity as musicians, I think, because if you were younger and someone good comes in, you're sort of thinking, oh, I'm not having him in the band, he's better than me, you know. But I never felt like that, but there would be some that would feel like that. But when you get older, you think, yeah, that he's good, you know, and it pushes you up another level. So he goes up a level, I go up a level, Mark goes up a level. And also Steve Ricks was changing a lot of his drum patterns.
Yeah, he replayed some of his drums, didn't he?
Yeah, because around the lyrics and around the vocals. And so everything started to sort of, although we were all recording remotely, because we were sparking off each other and trying to better ourselves, you know, that's you get that very much alive happening feel, I think.
It got really organic, didn't it? Which was good because a lot of the songs became something they weren't original. Not
definitely.
When you hear the demos, you can hear them in there.
Yeah.
They became Certain Faces was one that I binned it. I've been the whole first quarter of the song because well, the vocals anyway, and we slightly reworked, didn't we? We reworked the intro and made it a bit less full on.
And the closing section that was going to be a very long guitar solo, and you came up with the idea of vocals. And again, I must have been in a good mood. I think I was on the way to picking up a takeaway. I was on the way to picking up a takeaway, and the phone rang or something. And then it was good. You were probably dreading telling me, but actually, because we hadn't really developed that closing section yet, I thought, more vocals on that would be good. I like vocals. I like the fact there's a lot of melody and a lot of vocals on our stuff, because that's what ultimately people relate to that. I can come up with keyboard epics as much as I like, but at the end of the day, people love to hear a voice, and they love to hear lyrics, and they love to hear vocals, and I thought, more vocals on Faces, please, and it tells the whole story now.
Yeah, well, that was because I actually hadn't finished the story. I hadn't finished I realised, oh crikey, hang on, I haven't done the end bit. And there wasn't. There's a guitar solo going to go, and I thought, well, no, I've got to finish the what I'm saying.
The story, exactly.
So our songs are very much narrative driven. There's usually a beginning, a middle, and end to them. They have something to say.
Tell us about the role that Stuart played and how it was so tough. To go
well. Stuart was. We've known Stuart since so I was about 15, and you were young.
Likewise, 15.
Spent a lot of time with Stuart. He was in Moonstone with
John
Payne of Age of Fame back in the day, and I used to hang around with them a bit, and used to go out with Stuart in the van. And he was a mate, and never really was in a band with him. There was briefly for a while, but not really doing the sort of music that I really wanted to do. And then, so known Stuart for years, good mate. And same with Steve. Really, Steve actually played in more bands with Stuart.
I was in a prog band with him. I was in a prog band with him called Nexus. We were doing the rounds in about 84, 85, and we were hoping to get a deal off the back of the sort of the new wave of prog that was happening at the time. Marillion had got through, and Palace had got through to a deal, and we were thinking, if we go out and just play some good prog music, we'll get a deal too. But us and so many other bands at that time, it wasn't going to happen. Once those two had got through, that was it. But Stuart was a great player. He could play anything. He played by ear, which again is something that I just can't do very well, if at all.
Pitch, didn't he?
He could just pick up anything and do it.
Getting back to his sort of involvement in Zen Orchestra, it was as soon as this came up, I said, right, we're going to put a band together. I think I was the one hassling people. I think I was doing it. We had Ricks on board, didn't we?
I think Ricks was an early one, and you were an early one, because I knew Ricks from school, and he was involved in Zen Orchestra 1 a bit. And he was the only person I knew who would probably be up for it. And I always, and you probably grabbed Stuart. Probably.
I grabbed Stuart. I wanted. This is my dream team. This is the dream team. And I said, Stuart, and then we're going to get, where there was a guitarist we had in mind that didn't work out, unfortunately, due to timings and things like that. But it was Ricks, Stuart, Steve, me. This was my. If I was going to be in a band with people, it was
that you wanted to be in. Exactly. And when I was writing the stuff, I would think about what Stuart would play or what he'd look like when if we were all on stage. Imagine a lot of imagination went on in writing this stuff. I used to picture it on stage and what we would be doing, what would we look like, and I would always think, well, I'll write this bass line with Stuart in mind, So he was kind of there in spirit from the beginning, and it's kind of ended up,
Well, he was. Stuart is a rare bird. He could almost play any instrument he put his hands on, to one extent or another. But
that's a gift.
Yeah, totally. And he could find the space in music, and so his bass playing was very melodic. It was very he could stick to the rhythm. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get this beautiful little run, and it was just in the right place, and
motif,
and and it was great. And on Circles, it was, yeah, it just, as soon as he started playing on it, it was like, well, yeah,
it's like this is a proper band now, you know. And you know, it was just so sad that well, it was lucky that I was over with you, Mark, wasn't we? When he first had his first run through of mine.
You were here, weren't you? We were.
I was here. He kind of sort of indicated that he didn't want me interfering with things. I think he was being one of his little sarcastic jokes, and I set up in your spare room reading a music magazine, and then he knocked on the door and said, "I was something like, you know." You know, you've not come all this way from Ireland not to listen to me. So then I sort of came in the room and I sat there with a magazine up in front of me while he was playing, and I just remember thinking, this is brilliant. You know, here he goes again, and he was coming up with all this great stuff, and it was just the early fledgling ideas of the demo. But luckily we managed to capture a lot of that and use that on Minds. So we got him on 2 tracks, and it's so sad because I mean we're all, you know. It takes a while to get Stuart's trust and belief in something, and he was just had just kind of happened, hadn't it, Mark? When tragedy struck, you know.
So when we finished the first mix on Circles for the radio edit release, Stuart was constantly saying to me, "It's all a bit, you know," and he was, you know, and then. I think I went to see him playing with another band, and half at the interval, I was sitting there sort of at the bar, and
your usual vocalist stance.
And he came over and he said, "I get it now. I get it now." You know, because I was driving this to a large extent, or pushing, as I'm a bit of a pushy guy, pushing this kind of wall of sound. Take things beyond the extreme in terms of the amount of stuff that's going on, and I just wanted to see whether we could pull that off or not, and create some extremity in what we're doing. And Stuart was always, "Oh no, you want to do," you know, but then he got it. He finally got it, and we all got it because it's sad that he just isn't on the rest of the album. But he's, as far as I'm concerned, he is. For that album, he's the bass player of the band, irrespective.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I mean, you know, his ways of playing keyboards, because he would dabble in keyboards too. And when I was younger and I first bumped into him in a music shop, he would come around my house and play on my synthesizer till about midnight. And I had school the next day, and the room was filled with smoke. You know, this is when you could smoke in a house and stuff. And you know, but I kind of learned a lot from him in the way he played keyboards. You know, he'd sort of have a chord on one hand and then a different bass note on the other, and that kind of collage of sound, you know, was something which I took with me through writing ever since, you know. And so, you know, we owe a lot to him, really,
a hell of a lot
musically.
He introduced me to some of the people artists I love, recording artists I love.
Absolutely,
if it wasn't for him. So the spirit is there with us, and we're going to carry that spirit forward.
Yeah, it's always there in the style, definitely. Yeah.
So,
right. And how's the album doing? How's it selling? Do you have a pretty good audience as far as not just selling, but on social media and things like that? Are people, you know, gravitating toward it and buying it?
They seem to be, yeah. I mean, surprisingly, I mean, I have to say, we were kind of expecting it to be kind of a very kind of slow, but there was a bit of a hit at the beginning where we were getting lots of, you know, more orders than we expected, more quickly than we expected for the CD, and we got a big batch. We got an order from an exporter. They contacted us and said, "Well, I want, you know, a significant number of your CDs to go to." Turns out it was Japan, to a shop in Japan. They specifically requested he get hold of our album for them, which I was quite surprised at. But yeah, I mean, the streaming numbers are very, very healthy. CD sales have gone way better than I expected, considering we don't play gigs.
Can you guys get a few of those CDs over to Amazon? I want to buy one.
Okay, we can, but you can order one through Bandcamp.
Oh, okay.
or if you want to get one through our website, you can get it on zenorchestra.com.
Okay. Well, not just for me, but anyone else.
Sure.
That's good.
Yep.
We'll talk after this, and we can figure something out. But if you guys, I mean, we can sort something out. Yeah, sure. Got your email address. We'll talk about that, and we'll get that sorted.
Well, good. I mean, so you still have a batch available. That's good. And not just for me, but everyone else. If you haven't bought this, they still have CDs. Do you also have vinyl?
No, we don't have vinyl.
No. We talked about it though.
We have one vinyl.
We got a test pressing, didn't we?
We got a test pressing, and to see whether or not the mastering that we had done for the CD was gonna make it on vinyl. But it was a kind of test pressing for a dropshipping product, which if we put something out, it won't be that. It's going to have to be a heavy duty deluxe. It's going to have to be remastered for vinyl. So at the moment, no, but it's certainly something we've thought about.
And people don't realize how much it costs to do vinyl these days. To do vinyl correctly, like you're saying, and that's an important distinction that you're putting in there. That you can just copy the CD or the basic, but it's not going to sound as good as these old vinyls that we have. And so to do it right, you have to spend a lot more money. Therefore, it takes more time, and they're going to be more expensive as well.
Exactly, and particularly as the tracks are so long,
So,
they're like, why aren't they, 10 or $11 like they used to be?
More to it.
Well, that's it. I mean, in actual fact, the approach we took to making the album was very much. We said, right, let's just approach this like we're making an old-fashioned record with a side one and a side two, and give ourselves a restriction of how much music we have. Do you remember
that? I mean, like all the best albums, 45 minutes, 50 minutes tops. I
mean, we ended up being a bit over that, I think. But the idea was to say, well, back in the day, you only had 23 minutes on each side available to you. So let's just give ourselves that kind of weird restriction. I don't know why I suggested it. Because
I think it's also because, in the old days, side one would start off with big impact and it kind of like there'd be a nice ending to side one. And then side two would kind of kick off again with something of interest and impact. And then there'd be a big finish at the end of side two. And I think what's happened with CDs is it's become too easy to pile a lot of music on a CD. And so you get too many songs on albums. Maybe not recent times, but there was a time in the 90s, mid-90s, maybe mid-2000s, where albums was just too long and there was a lot of filler. I wanted this to be all killer and no filler, you know what I mean? And I think, I like to think we've achieved that.
We've done that. I mean, if you remember, someone actually used that phrase to us.
Really? Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, that's amazing. I haven't used it
on this one. No, not on this one. But
Sorry,
oh no, I'm saying there's no fillers on this one. This is excellent.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, that's lovely to hear. It's great.
What are some of your influences? Who were you guys influenced by? You can tell who I.
Well, I mean, obviously, it comes straight out of it. I'm a prog fan and loud and proud. I heard Seconds Out when I was about 14. In the early 80s, I've never recovered since. Genesis is Seconds Out live. I've never recovered since. But I've always had a like for when the prog bands kind of go commercial. I'm always interested by that. Like when Yes did 90125, or even Drama with the guys from the Buggles. That excites me. And Asia as well, to mention Asia again. When I think this is great. Maybe other people will start to like prog too. The more it's widely known, but it can be a bit of a poison chalice. I think if you do start mixing your genres too much, it doesn't always last that long. So when it came to writing when I sort of wanted to come back with Mark, so to speak, I thought, look, I'm going to have to nail my prog colours to the mast, because there's a revival going on. I think I'm right to say that from the mid 2000s, there was definitely prog became less of a dirty word, for a better want of a better phrase, and more people were talking about prog, and more people were appreciating. And I thought, well, if we're going to come up with something that's going to get out there and compete with everybody else, we just need to make a prog album. So when I started writing the bones of the material, I just let all the influences in. I didn't care if it sounded a bit like Nursery Crime or sounded a bit like Dance on a Volcano or whatever. Just let it all in, mix it with the pop stuff that I like, Tears for Fears or whatever. Can't think of any more at the minute, but the more commercial aspects of music, let it all in, put it, stir it all around, and just let it happen. And then, like I say, once I'd done that, Mark then put his influence on it, and Mark, you'll talk about what you like as well.
Well, I mean, I'm a Genesis fan, I'm a Yes fan, but I love pop music. I mean, I love ELO, and
ELO, yeah,
10cc.
absolutely.
I mean, the list is endless, and I think it's less about being influenced directly by the music, and more about soaking all that stuff up when I was younger, and it being there, and also we said, look, because back in the day when we were making music, we were trying to be successful, so we were trying to make music we thought would be successful.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
What
I forgot about that. You're right.
Completely the opposite.
Yeah, we just thought let's just do what comes out. Let's just do what we want to do. Let's do what excites us.
Yeah.
And Mark, you mentioned the one band. Was that the Alarm? Do you guys know who the Alarm is?
I do remember the Alarm. Yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
68 Guns, wasn't it? Or
yeah.
They're kind of like U2.
Yeah.
Yes, they did go a bit U2 towards the end. Yeah. And U2 particularly. Again, I like U2 when they went a bit left field, like with Acting Baby and Pop. I know that a lot of the hardened U2 fans probably frowned upon those albums a bit, but when they started trying something different and groovy, that really got me. And so, some of the sort of the grooves in our stuff, the drum machine work particularly, probably stems from liking that kind of stuff. But like you say, Mark, like in the old days, in the 90s, when we were in Walking on Ice and all the rest of it, we actually went to great pains not to mention that we were into progressive rock. It was, because it really was, in the 90s was a bad time, I think, for the genre. And, we were doing like a sort of a pop rock prog brand. It Bites, I suppose. It Bites was a major influence at the time.
It was prog pop. I mean,
it was prog pop. And I was very lucky to get, sorry, carry on.
Oh, no, I'm just going to say, Mark sounds a little bit like Peter from IQ. So you must.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You maybe had a little influence from them. I mean, they did really well during the 90s, and so did Pendragon.
I've got one IQ record on my list, on my things.
Yeah.
And
which one is that?
They had a single out called Drive On.
That was from.
I really loved that.
That wasn't.
That
wasn't
never really
Pete
got
Nichols.
into IQ. Never really got into them as they've probably got a lot better stuff. But I've never really heard IQ. But I suspect that it's just some of them have probably got similar influences to myself or you, Steve.
Oh, definitely. Well, IQ Frequency album was a big influence on me, because that kind of touched on commercial elements and slightly leaner songs, or that was a good album. That's a long time ago now, but I think the Drive On actually wasn't Pete Nichols. That was when they had a different singer in for a bit.
But again, he made 2 albums, and
that's right. Yeah, I can't
and one of them has the song about World War One, where everyone put down their weapons, and Common Ground. The song.
I think I remember that one. Yeah. But I mean, I think it was just those albums were released at a tough time for the genre. I think it was still frowned upon a bit at the time. And I remember I was very lucky to have an opportunity to do a magazine interview with Keyboard Review back in 1991 when I was in Walking on Ice. And I remember doing the interview and thinking, don't mention prog. It was like don't mention the war. It was like Fawlty Towers, don't mention the war. Don't mention prog. And I don't know. I haven't actually had the. When you do something like that, you don't like to reread it. I haven't actually reread it since. But I managed to get through the whole interview without saying really what kind of stuff influenced, or maybe even what kind of stuff we did, which is probably not a good idea. I think you have to be honest. But like I say, that we learned a lot from that band, and a lot of what we did when I came back to writing with Mark was like, well, if we'd kept going, if we'd managed to keep going for whatever reason, what kind of stuff would we be doing now? And so even old bands was a stuff that I'd done for old bands was very much an influence in this latest project. So
now you mentioned that you're not real close, but close enough that you might tour. Will you tour this album at all, or is touring sort of hard to do? You're all working all full time as well. What do you think,
Mark?
Well, some of us are, some of us aren't. But no, it's a bit more complicated than that. I think the original. I think I said, didn't I? If I'm doing this, I said to you, Steve, I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to play any gigs. I don't want to play live. Do you remember I said that?
Yeah. I think it was a way
of mind.
Yeah, but it was a way of taking pressure off us as well, because when we were in that band, Walking Ice, it was a very pressured time. We were trying to do the Marillion thing of gigging all the hours God sends, and it put me off doing it, completely, because the creative side suffered as a result. So I think we took the pressure off ourselves by saying, let's just do an interesting recorded work. Let's get it out there. Let's release it. Let's sell it. Because our bands like IQ and Palace or whatever, or Pendragon, had been doing that for years, and we'd never really had a bite of that particular cherry. I thought it's about time we got out there. But anyway, back to the live thing. I would absolutely love to do it, but it would mean a lot of stamina, a lot of extra money, a lot of time. And we're getting older now. We don't have an awful lot of any of those things.
Right,
So,
I mean, it's just, look, I mean, we kind of originally were not going to do it, but then, but recently we've kind of thought, well, actually, we probably do need to have a plan in place to do it.
Yeah.
So we have started put together a plan to do some shows. Whether they'll happen or not, it's going to depend on a million factors. But yeah,
maybe some of the festivals where you're only putting together maybe 3, 4, 5 songs.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
Just really, if we're going to do a show, we have to do a show, and so it would have to be a case of because logistically, getting us all together to rehearse for a start, to actually rehearse a show, it will be quite a big deal. Because we're all spread out all over the place, and also we don't have a bass player as yet. Alberto did.
He's still working on the band, album,
but he's in Italy, so and there was no idea that he would be joining the band particularly. So we do need to find a permanent bass player. So getting us all together to rehearse for a couple of weeks to actually relearn the songs.
And put them in a live format.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the songs. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously, people these days do expect to hear good quality live stuff. So there'd be a bit of machinery work there, sort of to get some of the drum machiney sequences stuff in there.
Change things off, change things out.
The sound might be different. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited by it very much.
And so actually, we don't need to do that live. We're going to do that instead, or whatever. And there's lots of things. But either way, a couple of weeks rehearsal at least, probably full time. Then it's a case of having enough shows to make it pay for itself. Because it costs a lot of money. So we're now saying no. Although we do have a plan, we have no specific plans to do any live shows.
Yet. So probably next year.
Next year will be the next album. So we've already started thinking about writing it.
Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But so we're going to take just a minute and talk to you about personal life and where you live and what. So if. And I do want to go over to England and definitely want to. Steve is in Ireland, right? If I get this,
but
We've heard.
I can.
I was telling him that over here in the U.S., with everything that we have going on, we're hearing all sorts of wonderful things about how great
Yeah,
Ireland. Uh,
yeah,
so
that's
where
good.
where's your favorite place to go, each of you, and what do you like to do when you're not making music, when you're not working?
Will I go first?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
Steve,
Well, I
because I'm
mean,
trying to
like,
think of
well,
an answer.
yeah. Well, the good thing about Ireland is, apart from sort of rush hour in the morning, getting into Dublin and the other cities like Galway and Cork, the roads are fairly quiet. You know what I mean? When I go over to Luton, and there's like masses of cars everywhere. There's a house on every space, and Mark's tearing through Luton streets in a massive car, and I'm like with my eyes covered. It's just, I would have to say it's not like that over here in Ireland. I mean, everyone has responsibilities and workaday worries and stuff like that. But generally speaking, it's a small population in a very big country with an awful lot of countryside. So I'm happy sort of where I am in County Meath, but we do like to go to Galway for holidays and breaks. It's just Galway town is very arty and a lovely place to look at, and the Connemara around Galway Way is just massive, vast, open spaces of uncommercialized beach and rocks and sea going out for miles, and it has definitely helped over the years to sort of the fact that I'm in a different environment over here has helped with the writing. And when I listen back to the album tracks, I can sort of think where I was when I came up with a particular idea and
Oh,
where something came to fruition, and that's really nice. I think about where I was when Mark was badgering me over something. No, not really, or where I came up with a particular idea. So yeah, I suppose it would be the West. We've often talked about where we might end up living eventually, and that would be probably somewhere. I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
Galway in
make
the
it
West is
somewhere
my
near an
favourite place.
airport, Steve.
What?
Make it somewhere near an airport.
Yeah, well, that's right, exactly. Well, don't worry, there is one around there. I think probably
So
a little prop jet will get me over somehow.
yeah,
But yeah,
we'll build you a plane.
but yeah, no, I like where I am now. We've got good access to Dublin and the airport and stuff like that. Which so getting over to see Mark hasn't really been a problem. It was lovely to get over there the other day and see your friends and have a little launch party. It was great.
Yeah, for me, it's well, I live in a sea of chaos, and 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 I've been to get this album over the wire. It's been a spectacular challenge. But things that Wales, Scotland, just
Yeah,
getting away to those places in a similar way to Steve, really, just getting away from all the kind of the work and
city
the
town life.
stress
Yeah.
and the and what have you, and just chilling out. But I've got some mates. I've got mates from all over the world, um, and we often will meet up in somewhere in Spain for for a weekend for drinks and things like
Mm.
that, and food and what have you. But yeah, no, I like Wales. Wales. If you
Yeah.
come over, visit Wales, visit Scotland. We'll go for a
Mm.
beer in a country
Yeah.
pub,
Yeah.
um, Mark. So yeah, when you come over, do let
Mm.
me know.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, um, we want to. I've got English heritage, English and German, so yeah, I definitely
Oh,
want
yeah. Great.
to see all of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of these days,
I'll take you for a
what
beer.
Mm.
what are some highlights as far as places you would go? I mean, as far as like parks or uh, theaters or even restaurants, if you want to talk about that,
Mm.
you need
Crikey.
to look
No,
at.
well, I mean, funnily enough, I mean, like, I suppose, like it or not, we've been balancing working on the album with normal life, families and day jobs and what have you. But I've been very lucky in that, I can be going around a shopping centre with the family, or even when the kids were young and they were very well behaved. Well, because we all say that about kids, don't we? But I do remember I'd be doing stuff like that, and I'd just be thinking about music all the time.
Yeah,
I'd be
Yeah,
thinking about ideas for the album. I'd be thinking about having another go, And so I suppose I don't mind doing the sort of the day-to-day stuff, because thankfully at the moment I've still got my marbles, and I'm just thinking about music. I'm thinking about what keyboard I might buy, or what song idea I might come up with. And like we just touched on the new album there. I'm just starting to think about working titles and songs I might like to write that go a particular way. I haven't written a note yet, but it's all in. It starts in my head, and I can be hoovering the house or cleaning the windows and still thinking about it. So I've been lucky to have that environment to do that in. Really,
I mean, this sort of stuff comes. It does become all encompassing. So yeah, I mean, I used to work in London. I still do sometimes. And all those places have changed. The country's changed since COVID. Lots of places aren't there anymore. But I would say just try to visit the countryside. And I mean, luckily, compared to the US and Canada, the UK is quite a small place, and you can pretty much, you could spend a couple of weeks here and see a lot of it. There's so many there's some nice places to go, but I would say you've got the Lake District is a wonderful part of the country of the UK. I'd highly recommend a visit there. There's Cornwall and Devon. But the Isle of Wight is amazing. It's a small country with a lot of kind of differences, in accent, and and places like that. But what Steve was saying about the music, it does. My wife really loves going to gigs. She loves going to see live music. She's always trying to drag me along, and I just go along, and all I can think about is our music.
Because
I've got this idea for a song, or I've got this, or I've got that, and I don't really like it. I mean, I sometimes I really do. I mean, we've got a great club here called the Bear Club, which is a jazz club. Tiny little place. They have comedy there. I like to go and see comedy. That's really good. The Bear Club in Luton. I want to put
give it a shout.
It's a highly recommended venue. What Steve was saying about the music. I literally sometimes have to stop what I'm doing and go and sing into my recorder.
You do that.
Because I've got an idea for a song. So
I should perhaps talking about why wives not having. My wife's been very good to always let me have either a room or a space in the corner of a house when we had a smaller house where my keyboard rig is, because it's been quite big over the years and still is. And so I'm just very lucky to have a sort of a household that lets me get on with my fiddling around. I suppose it's the equivalent of fiddling in the garden shed, except I'm playing keyboards and trying to come up with a prog album. But I've been very lucky to have support from my wife, and as I say, the kids put up with me.
Here's to that. Me too. I mean, she lets me for the same because it's important, and
if you feel that it's okay, you can relax and you can start to do your own thing. Exactly.
All right, let's come back to the album. You open with the song "Minds," which is fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration and idea behind that, and what's the concept of that particular song.
There you go, Mark.
Yeah.
Over to you.
I get all the hard ones, right?
I just get the easy stuff. I'm happy to do the easy stuff.
Okay, fine. So right, Minds is essentially, it's just about the internet. It's about privacy. It's about data security in a way, almost, as well. The way people behave on social media and things like that. And the chorus of Minds is actually taken from things that people have said on Facebook and things like that. So, have I said too much? Did I let you down?
Yeah.
These are literally, I've gone, oh, that's good. I'm having that. And I screen grab it and not the person's name, but obviously just the line. And I've kind of put the chorus together from things people have said and other parts of the song as well. So a lot of the song was actually taken from phrases people I've seen use, things people have said, things people have said to me, people have said to other people, and I've gone, yeah, that, you know. So it's sort of like a collage, like a word salad, I guess, of things people said on the internet. But
and you know, and funnily enough, when I wrote the music to that, the bones of the music to that, long before Mark had come up with vocals or melody, I was using sort of like a lot of repetitive sounds, like the sort of sequence of digga digga digga, you know, the kind of electronica influences on that track, and the two kind of came together then, didn't they? With I don't know whether one influenced the other or whatever.
That's what inspired me to because it just felt very digital and
mechanized. Yeah, I kind of wanted to do a song that had that kind of repetitive kind of rhythmic feel to it. And
it spoke to me like that. And
all right,
so that was good.
Let's talk about Faces. That's another great song.
I can kick off a little bit about that, but I actually genuinely think that was the first thing that I kind of started writing when I decided to have another go, and maybe I sort of had Mark on board a bit at that point. The working title for that was Epic Song, so that kind of says it all really. And I think originally it was gonna, and then it changed to a working title of Small Town Stories, because I was conscious that it was a song of different sections. You know, a bit like the classics, I don't know, You and I, or Something's Ready, whatever the hell, and so that's kind of explains why it's kind of in different sections. Because originally I was thinking, well, if someone was going to come up with some ideas, maybe they could have a different story for each section. But the sections kind of hung together quite well, and you kind of come up with an overarching sort of concept for it. And then I went off the idea of separating the ideas and thought this is good enough to stand up on its own as a song that just happens to go through different moods and different parts.
Yeah,
and then you changed it again.
I changed it.
and then all that went out the window. No, and then you changed.
I kind of.
It was great. You
rearranged. It's
all
gone a bit blurry, isn't it? I mean, I'll have to revisit the original. We should sit there and listen to the original CD demo that you sent me, and just try to figure out what the genesis of these songs was.
Yeah,
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I think the original chord sequence is there somewhere still, but it's kind of it's only in the intro, I think, and then it just sinks into that drone rhythmic thing.
With a big fanfare.
Oh, it started off with a big chorus, and then we ditched that and just went straight in. Yeah.
That was late in the day. I've been that late in the day, didn't I? When I redid all the and we went with the soft opening with the
exactly, and I thought, this is good, because I know I joke
about
the
two drum machines actually.
Exactly. I know I joke about sort of.
Anyway.
Yeah, you did your own thing. Yeah, I knew that you added some extra stuff in on top of what I'd done. I mean, although I joke about my ideas being wrecked by Mark, I do get excited when an idea that I kind of think is overlong starts to get edited down and starts to really rock and take off. I get excited by edits. I mean, I probably shouldn't say, but I was actually thinking about the single release for Time. I was saying, let's just get rid of that end section. And the end section is the most glorious bit of it. So I'm not always right. I'm not always right.
Yeah, I consider
it. Thankfully, thankfully, I was argued down on that one.
I know, because I just thought there's the beginning, middle, and end. It's the kind of
the story had
to
hold up.
You can't, you can't sort of lose. Otherwise, it has no full stop at the end.
Yeah.
Of it. But
we digress. Faces did start off as like a kind of multi thing, and then things were hanging together and flowing quite nicely. And then, as you say, you decided to write vocals over the end because you wanted to finish the story. And it's very much a long story all in one go, and it's actually become my most favourite track. I think up until you changed it, it was always like, okay, well that's number 2. We've got better stuff after that, so I think we'll be all right. But then when Faces was lifted up with your new idea, and when the guitar went on, with the chords and the little guitar solo at the end, I thought, this is really strong. And I think I kind of knew that the purest progressive rock fans would probably get this one because I was having a lot of fun with the sections. I mean, you might notice I won't give any.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give the game away and tell you what sections what, but I was having fun with this one in terms of influences. You know, like the big
Yeah.
choir bit of the instrumental when it gets big. You know that's been done a few times in many a prog song, and so I was having fun with this as a first crack of writing, and I think that
I think
shows through.
that's what sort of I mean, we don't really talk too deeply about what each song's about, things like that. We really want the audience to decide for themselves, but I do know that there was a certain amount of joy in just making it for ourselves, and saying, right, let's just have another choir in there.
Yeah.
Do that
Exactly.
thing that, and I think
Yeah.
that shows in the music, and that's a lesson learned.
All right, let's talk about time.
Time. Well, there you go.
Never enough time.
Yeah.
Okay. Time is there's a little bit more kind of on the nose, really, vocally. It's really about the passing of time and and regrets, but not mine. I kind of created a character for the song when I wrote it, and unusually I wrote it kind of nearly all in one go. And I had a film in my head. I played out a kind of a small drama in my head, and I wrote the lyric based on that. And the end section is a little more. I think that was pretty much I just did it. I think the end section. I was reacting to the drama that I'd just written.
It just all came out, didn't it?
Yeah, and it was very quick. It was very
quick. There's some great moments on that song. I mean, just to sort of before we go into that, when I was writing that, the bones of that, I had this idea of like a kind of a nice slow gentle start, and then I was thinking of this big sort of instrumental ending, kind of fast thing, and what I came up with was pretty awful. And then we actually went to see Roger Waters do The Wall in Wembley, and I suddenly thought to myself, no, hang on a minute, what's special about Pink Floyd's writing or Roger Waters' writing is that it's the slow chord, it's the mood, it's the slow change, getting the emotion, the space. And so I just went back to time from when when the closing section starts after the last chorus, and it was a bit like you with the lyrics. I just put my hands on a string sound, and the chorus just came out. I was writing it as I was recording it, as I was coming up with it, and I was quickly, frantically writing down them what they were, and I thought that's nice, and that's nice. And I think because that closing section, actually, I don't think there's very little repetition in the chords apart from that sort of choir theme that comes in every now and again.
Sounds like every other bit's different. Actually isn't, is
there?
There
actually isn't. It's very subtle, and again, I was really enthused by that. And your vocals are really emotional and powerful, and the lyrics too. And so, thank God I just kind of ditched this kind of fast, fancy thing for this more emotive, moody thing.
I mean, I remember doing that last bit, and it was pretty much it was a stream of consciousness. At the end, and I had to literally, and I had to go back and play it back to myself to figure out what I'd actually sung, because I didn't know, and I changed a few bits and what have you, but when I actually just I just wrote it straight into the mic, which is unusual.
And so it had that whole feel to it, and mate, I think a lot of people said it's one of their favourites, and I think again, if you've written something that organically and enjoyed writing it so much through some kind of magic, it's there in the music for other people to pick up and respond to, and I still listen to the lyrics and make my own interpretations of it. I mean, the slow middle section, "Is it time for my tea?" always reminds me of poor old fellas in the old people's home,
exactly
and I've had experience of that with my dad, and the family,
my grandmother,
families going through it now, with other relatives, and it's little things like that which I suppose it's written. We're all kind of in the autumn of our years, well, apart from apart from James and Steve, maybe. So we're more conscious of that kind of thing, and that's nice for people to hear for a change, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Now, billionaires, we're having all sorts of problems with our billionaires over here.
Yeah.
Like you guys are too.
Yeah.
Tell us about that song.
Mark, you got a lot behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the most political track on the album, but again, we've taken a slightly different sort of slant on it. But yeah, I mean, look, there's the wealth of the world is being concentrated into fewer and fewer people.
They're caring less and less about the rest of us.
Yeah.
There's gaps widening all the time, isn't it?
That's not to say I don't mind people being wealthy. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of saying, well, actually, do you know what? There has to be balance in the world. There has to be a kind of balance. And yes, it's important that people have something to aim for, et cetera, et cetera. Because otherwise, what's the point? But but when it goes to the extremes that we're seeing now, I think it's a problem. I think there needs to be a rebalance, and I know that in the US, the kind of middle class, the kind of I don't know what you call it over there, but the kind of sort of white collar people, they're worse off. They're worse off than they were in the 50s. I think
there's a lot of disgruntled people
in terms of and where's that money gone? Well, guess what? You can tell you can just look and see where it's gone. It's not right, but I don't want to make a big fuss about it. But,
I like the way that you've told a very modern story in that song, and yet you could still relate it to like medieval times. People sort of walking up the hill to pay their toll to King Richard or whatever. The sort of the visuals that you could come up with that. In a video or live, whatever, or in your own head, it never ended.
Everything from thing,
everything from Canary Wharf to King John or I don't know, Robin Hood or whatever the hell. It's a great song from that point of view. And
the king thing is a
that's what comes
a euphemism for
it.
It's not supposed to be even though that is the language and the approach that I took with that, it's really just a kind of a euphemism for that sort of reality.
More modern times.
The accountants doing their thing and what have you.
Yeah. I'm not sure there's so much of a connection between the music and the lyrics on that one. It was just I wanted to just come up with a rip roaring piece of music that went quiet and then loud and then quiet and then loud.
It just felt right. It was just there's a great bit of musical drama going on there. Especially the opening. I love the opening of that. I mean, that's just fabulous. And we both know when that happened. And
exactly. I think that was actually one of the first riffs. Again, it was going right back to when I decided to have another go at this whole lark. I think that riff was the first thing that I came up with on my new keyboard, and then I spent most of the 10 years subsequent to that figuring out what time signature it was in, so that I could actually write it down for people. But we got there in the end. But and because you got to have a 6/8 section in a prog album, you know what I mean? So there was an element of me thinking, I want to get that ding, I wanted to get that kind of rhythm in somehow.
I really enjoyed that song.
And again, the urgency behind it, I think maybe fits with the concept. So we got there in the end.
It wasn't supposed to be a seriously political song. It was just going, come on, guys, guess what? I don't like all this. I don't like being preachy, and it's not supposed to be preachy. It's just supposed to be
an observational
It's observational
music.
Comedy.
Observational prog, observational progressive rock. That's a new genre.
All right, and then Circles was a huge song for you. It's a great song, and it involved Stuart and talk about that one. That must be a tough.
Well, I mean, Circles is a story. It's a definite story. It's a story about someone growing up who aspires to becoming an astronaut, and they want to go into space, and they go into space, and it doesn't turn out well.
Yeah, it all goes wrong from there
and they
on.
return to Earth, and
that was his first
the video is the story of the song. You know, I don't really. It's not really much else to say about that, apart from elements of it are just beautiful. Steve's writing is just great, and
nice chords there, yeah.
But Stuart, I mean, the video. If people do want to go back and look at the video, it's on YouTube, obviously. Stuart you can see his hands playing the bass on that, and that was 15 minutes before he died.
Yeah, it's just
in that film, and we weren't going to we were going to bin it all, but his wife, she said, no, you shouldn't do that.
Keep going.
Stuart would want it, but
I mean, thank God we captured him on that,
Yeah, but yeah, so that was literally 15 minutes before he died. He was dead 15 minutes later, and
you were there.
I was there. Yeah,
it was shocking scenes.
It wasn't a great time.
No,
and it hadn't even come out yet. I mean,
no, that's right. I often forget the timelines on that, but
yeah, come out. It was in Ingress. We had pressed the go button on it, but it hadn't actually hit the stores. So
he never got to see it. He really loved that. Yeah, and he was enjoying a bit of success with other bands as well, wasn't he? Folk bands.
Yeah, he was doing really good.
Judy Zook,
Charlie Foskett, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it was just tragic, I suppose.
But yeah, that's the ways. I don't want to bring the mood down, but yeah, that's the sad story of that video.
The song itself again was interesting. I suppose you heard it here first. I think, believe it or not, and this is probably going to frighten a lot of people, I think Minds and Circles actually used to be one big song. I think it was.
That's right.
One of my very. So the musicians out there might spot that there's 5/4 time in both of them, and that's because I think that was at the time where I wasn't sure whether the band was going to form, so I was kind of coming up with these electronica kind of epics, where I wanted to kind of have interesting drum machine patterns, but with a kind of electronica sort of prog meets electronica kind of thing. I mean, I might end up doing that on some solo album in another 10 years. I don't know, but anyway, back to Circles. It was a huge thing again, which Mark thankfully took a pair of scissors to, and some bits were lifted out for another time, which eventually became Minds, and some bits were compacted into Circles, and Circles was a really catchy little number. I know it has a big closing section on the album version. Again, a bit like Time, in that there's nice chord changes and emotional lyrics.
I like it. I love the ending of it.
I do. I haven't listened to it for a while, actually.
I enjoy when I hear it now.
It was an early piece of. It was the first. Well, it was literally the first song that we actually finished. That's why we wanted to get it out there, wasn't it? So it's special for a lot of reasons. Really, it was certainly one of the first things I think I wrote, and obviously Stuart played on properly.
Let's talk about Heartless.
Yes. Over to you, Mark. Mark's probably forgotten, but this was something that you came up with pretty much all of that in one form or another. Maybe not the closing bits, but you came up with the guitar-y kind of intro and the spooky kind of
the first
intro,
half, maybe.
And the vocal bits. Yeah, and again, the original version of that had a lot more in it. I think the working title for that I had was Halloween Town, because it just was kind of had a really spooky feel. Scary beginning, with the guitar motif at the beginning, and again that was you, Mark.
That was but then didn't that start off as? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't I have that as a kind of faster, kind of down now kind of.
I thought I came up with that bit.
Oh, maybe you did. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I brought that back as a reprise in the fast bit, because you said, because maybe you did. Well, no, there were certainly more bits that you came up with originally that were taken out.
I don't know.
The main thing about Heartless is it was definitely you come up with the bulk of it, the bulk of the melody and the chords, and it was one of those situations that I mentioned earlier where you would come up with keyboard parts and they were like 2-note chords, which just kind of like, what's he doing? What chord is that? You know, what name is that? What name can I call it? And it gave me an awful time. It was difficult to then get those chords across to the guitarist. Yeah, like because it was just like two weird notes, you know. So there was a lot of work involved in communicating that to other people.
Yeah,
but I actually, but I used what you'd done to orchestrate, because when you do your orchestral parts, it's just like one note here and one note there and what have you. So it became a sort of an orchestral song, really. There's a lot of orchestral sounds in that, and then I think I can't remember the closing section where that might have been you, might have been me, a mixture of us both. But the instrumental section in the middle, you just said to me one day, I think we need a fast bit, and that's when I scurried off, you know, mumbling and grumbling again.
Yeah.
And
Steve,
came up with
a fast bit. I'm going up the pub.
yeah. So I'm going to go and get something to eat, and you can go and work out a fast bit. So we did a fast bit, and then again the solo that I did for that originally was massive, and was cut. I personally cut that down because it could be better and sharper. And then again, when James came along as a guitarist, I actually went round it again because I wanted to improve it, because he was really good, and I wanted to keep, I wanted to be better. You know, I wanted to still be as good.
Hey guys,
so,
but Heartless is
hang in here just 1 second. I'm just going to take a real quick break. I'm just going to pause it. Just everyone stay where they are, and I'll be right back.
No problem.
The normal will keep coming. Yeah. Come. Okay, yeah, and you were talking about Heartless. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So Heartless is a sequel to Circles. It's the second half of the story, really. I mean, I won't give too much away. I want people to kind of find out for themselves and enjoy it for themselves. But if you look at listen to the end of Circles, or see the end of Circles in the video, clearly there's something really horrible happened to the guy. And it's the follow up to that about a few years later, and it starts off with him alone in an empty world, and he's kind of hearing these voices from the past, and you know, are they there, are they not there, and then the song kind of leads on from there, and it has a happy ending. So Heartless is kind of sort of the second half of Circles, a sequel to Circles.
Yeah,
we all like a happy ending.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and then the last song on the album is a beauty. It's an instrumental, Coda, and just
Coda. Yeah, I was just talking to Mark there in the break. I actually think that was, I think Billionaires and then Coda was once one big huge track. I think there was a whole load of stuff in between it that I started editing. So I think I took out a whole song which is still on the cutting room floor somewhere. It might see the light of day on the next album, I'm not sure. But Billionaires became a song in its own right. And then obviously listeners to the album will probably recognise that Coda kicks off with similar chords to Billionaires, and that it's a similar kind of the closing bit of keyboards at the end of Billionaires kind of comes back at the start of Coda, and then Coda kicks off. So it is a bit of a classic bookend thing where you've got start of side two, if you will, and the end of side two are kind of joined. You could join them together if you wanted to, and we just wanted to set out and do like a rip roaring instrumental, inspired by those Billionaires chords. You know, I wanted a sort of an upbeat guitar solo, and again the end sec. I can't remember what the end section was going to be, but it ended up a lot better than the original, and you got this kind of manic, weird fairground kind of funfair sound going on in those closing bits.
I had a bit of fun with that.
With spiraling keyboards and weird things happening, and so that's kind of like that kind of subversive kind of prog influence sort of coming in there. You know, I guess the early Genesis kind of things that Nursery Crime and Foxtrot kind of conjure up. You know. And the classic kind of snap ending, Mark, which you had fun with at the end with your
Well, I slowed.
Tell us a bit about that.
We did a
musical box thing finished it off, didn't it? Sort of a spooky kind of motif at the end on a musical box kind of sound.
Yeah, that was right. It was almost like, because it was like I remember that now. I like to visualize the audio and try to create a kind of sonic environment. people will find that if they listen to the album on, it sounds great on speakers, but if they listen to the album on headphones, there's a kind of a whole new dimension to it. Try to do. It's very ambitious.
Yeah, always try to do that. Yeah.
Hopefully you've picked up on that and listened to it. But yeah, there was this idea that actually the whole album is just in a little box, and then there's a guy walks out, or the guy or the person walks over and just closes the box, and that's the end of the album. I just felt right to just do that. I don't know.
It's the way the thing ended, and it just sort of warranted that kind of strangeness.
I kind of almost see the production. I know it sounds weird, but there's a lot of visuals in the production, in the audio. I kind of have to have a concept. I have to have a visual idea of it, and that seems to.
Now you guys did do some videos, music videos. Will you be doing more, or are you moving on to the new album though?
Well, I don't think it's one of the problems of making video is when you've got a 10-minute song or a 9-minute song, there's an enormous amount of work to A, come up with an idea, B, either get it filmed or create something. Time was a really good example of a really me opening my big mouth again and going, I think, because Time, I said earlier on about I envisaged the song as a drama, and I actually thought, well, actually we could make this little featurette,
like a little film,
little film, and I had it kind of lined up, and I kind of sketched it out, and we're going to do this and this, and we can do it here, we can shoot here. I had locations, but it quickly became apparent that for the budget that was available to do it, and we'd be calling in too many favors. I have a lot of favors, but when you're relying on to make these things with favors, if one person drops out for any reason, that you've scuppered the whole thing. So that wasn't going to happen. So I had to come up with another way of doing it, I guess, or suggest another way of doing it. And someone said, I can't remember who it was, Steve. Someone said, "Oh, the ending sounds like a Bond."
You kind of,
was it Rex or
well, I think it might have been Rex. I think it might have been Rex originally. I know certainly it was conjuring it up for me in my head, but I can't remember whether it was before he mentioned it or whether I mentioned it after that or before. I can't remember, but certainly as the song fades, I could just see the end of the Bond credits and the beginning of the Bond film starting. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It definitely conjures up that kind of thing for me. So you took that concept forward then on the video, didn't you, Mark?
So I thought, well, why don't we do a video, an animated video based on the kind of, or inspired by some of the Bond kind of title sequence tropes, and that was really
that was it.
And then I suddenly realised that shit, this is going to have to be animated. Sorry for swearing. This is going to have to be animated, and that's an enormous amount of work, and it was an enormous amount of work. But we filmed.
And you wanted to abandon it as well, didn't you? So we all had to film ourselves against the plain black background over and over again.
So I can rotoscope it.
That's us miming along.
There's a whole other interview on that making that film. That was a case of one little short sentence turning into many weeks of, oh my God, how are we going to make this work?
And Mine's video as well was another one of your concepts, and you had us all setting up. I had to black out the curtains and black out an entire room and strap my phone up to a microphone stand and sit there staring at it and miming the words, and we were all driven demented. You know, Steve Ricks was trying to do it, and the things kept on falling off the windows, and it was just, Mark again would be giving us these huge job lists of things, and we'd scurry off and sort of moan and groan and do them. But the end results are fantastic. You know, Mine's is a great video, and Time is excellent, and Circles was more of a kind of a storyboard kind of thing, wasn't it? That made up of bits and pieces. Am I right? Oh, us playing. Sorry, us playing.
I basically, I think the way it worked was we kind of found the shots that would tell the story, and licensed them, and it was a bit of a kind of a patchwork quilt, but it did exactly. It was exactly the film that I thought we should make.
You want to do.
But then, of course, we've just released Faces, which is the full album track, Faces, or as a video. And what we've done there is we've taken the film Metropolis, the 1927 Fritz.
Oh, yeah.
We've taken the film Metropolis and we've lovingly edited it down to fit the song. Yeah. Some people might think that's sacrilege, and it isn't intended to be sacrilege. It's intended to. So a lot of people still have never heard of this film, and it's a wonderful piece of art.
Great.
You know, I highly recommend see Metropolis in its full glory. But our version is an homage to Metropolis, and great care has been taken to tell the story of the film, which. What happened was I was listening to Faces, and for some reason there was some scenes of Metropolis on screen. I've got a few screens here.
One of your screens,
and it was kind of came up. I don't know what it was for, and I thought, oh, hang on, this is a parallel story. So there's a lot of what Faces intended Faces to be about in the Metropolis film. So I thought, well, why? Hey, this is could this be a thing? And again, 100 hours later.
It's good. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how it fits. Yeah, it fits very well. Give it a watch. Though, you know, those of you listening, give it a watch because it really fits well, and a lot of drama in that and drama in the music too, all coming together. You know, it's really good.
All right, and you mentioned the next album. Is that going to be 2026? It sounds like.
Yeah. Are we now 25? No, 27.
25. 27, we think.
27. Because I mean, we've just started. Well, actually, by our standard of work, actually, it's 2035.
No, God no.
No. So we've got we've done all this work to kind of create an environment, a kind of a Zen Orchestra kind of way of doing things, and we've kind of figured it out. And so a lot of the time that was spent on the first album just figuring it out, we've kind of done. So
it's gonna be quicker this time around. You've got a better idea of the tech.
So we're gonna write. We're gonna start writing end of this year, beginning of next year. Probably take us 6 months or so to write, I guess, and then we'll go straight into tracking and maybe another year's worth of
How many songs do you have written?
Well, we've got lots of ideas at the moment.
We're looking for about between 7 and 10 songs. We're looking for
we want to start with. I think we're going to start with 15 songs and then whittle them down and you know. But yeah, we've got loads of ideas. I mean, I've got maybe a few hundred little ideas in my, and Steve is doing some stuff, and so early days yet, but we try not to get too formed until we get together and try to figure out what we've got, and it's almost like a big jigsaw without having the picture of the jigsaw that you're making.
Do you want to talk about the concept yet, or too early?
I think from a musical point of view, I mentioned this before, didn't I? I mean, like this album we've just done was very much kind of my history and Mark's history all coming together in this kind of collection of songs and like a love letter to the sort of stuff we've been listening to over the years. I think this next one's, we're not going to be looking back. We'll just be looking back at what we've just done. I think we'll be kind of inspired by what we've finally come up with, and I just think it's very much a looking forward one. I think the next batch of songs. I don't know whether there probably won't be a concept as such, but it will certainly be like a building on what we've done and enjoying what we've done again, and just having fun with everything that we've had fun with on this one.
Yeah, I mean that's the key. It's just have a bit, have some fun with it, and just do it for the love of doing it, and
because we have a certain writing style anyway that's just embedded. So I think when we start to sort of come up with stuff, we'll know when we come up with something that we would like to come up with, if that makes any sense. I suppose coming to writing music quite late in the day again, there's no plans to take a complete left turn, put it like that. You know what I mean? Some bands decide to change completely on the third or fourth album. Unfortunately, we probably won't have that luxury, but we're just going to sort of have fun with kind of what we know we can do and what we've done so far.
If we're not enjoying it, what's the point of doing it? So we're just going to go. We're just going to go with it,
we're looking to involve the guys, a bit more this time, aren't we? I think we're going to, rather than sort of present almost a full package of songs and say, right, lads, you need to play this and you need to play that. As each song starts to develop, we want to get other people involved a bit sooner, don't we?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to. I don't think we want to reinvent the wheel. I mean,
no.
It worked for us last time. I think the guys were comfortable, but I think we'll have the door to the music room open, and if they want to walk in and join us in the music room, they can. But they've got other things they're doing.
They're busy with other bands, aren't they?
They're busy. I mean, Steve plays with More, a rock band, and James has got a fabulous band that he's in called Sellsword.
Sort of technical metal sort of thing.
They've got plenty going on. I think they're kind of happy for us to be doing all the.
The way things work is.
But the door there. So guys, if you want to, feel free. We're not.
Yeah.
We just don't want to overthink it. We don't want to over strategize it. We just don't. We just want to let it be organic and just see what comes out. I think, given it's me and Steve, we kind of know what that's going to be. It's not going to. It'll
come out a certain way. It's not going
to be a change. We like the big music, and we're going to make the big music, I think. So,
let me ask you this: is there anything else that I haven't covered? We covered a lot of ground, and I appreciate all your time. You guys really were forthcoming and talked about the album. Is there anything else we've missed?
I can't think of anything.
I don't think so. I mean, it's been great to talk about the songs, each one at a time, and how it came about. So no, I've really enjoyed it. I can't think of anything else.
And it's brought. Talking here live with Steve. It's kind of he's kind of
we haven't had a chance to do that.
We don't really talk about it like this.
No, you do get so busy with these things, and we were so busy working towards trying to finish the thing. We've never really had a moment to sit back and reflect until now, really. So it's been really nice to do that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been interesting.
Let's definitely do it again in 2027 when you get the new one done.
Yeah, if not before.
We might do something before then, but I'm not going to say what that is.
No, we're going to try and come up with something before.
We're going to do something that's totally prog, but a real bit of fun.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. So we will let everyone know we're doing it.
And please send it to me. I'd be happy to do the same thing, review it.
Yeah.
We can talk about it again. Well, hey, really, thank you both, Mark and Steve, for taking all this time. It's been a great time, a lot of fun. You guys are easy communicators, and you're talking not just junk, but you're really getting into the heart and the soul of what you recorded and what you created and how you did it, and you can see how the two of you work together and talk things out. And
thank you.
Yeah, you got a good team there, and I just look forward to more good stuff in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear.
Delighted you like the album and you enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Thank you very much for your time too.
If you haven't heard of these guys yet, the Zen Orchestra, definitely do Google search, whatever you need to do. I'm going to be posting this interview. I've already posted the review, but I'll have a link to the review on the interview post that I do here on Facebook in a little bit. But go back, read my review. I think it was pretty favorable, and it's a great album. It is just it's their debut, and there's a lot more good stuff coming. They've already told you they've got something coming, and now they surprise us with something that might be happening next year. So yeah, these guys are prolific. They're going to be making music, and you're going to want to hear it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any last things? Otherwise, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.
No, we don't.
No. Just thanks for
probably too much.
Yeah, no. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks very much for your time and your interest. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's just just great. Thanks very much.
Yeah, please take an interest in these independent artists.
Yeah,
they are on their own. They're doing what they want to do. They're not being told by a record label, you got to put that in, or nope, get that song out of there. There's too much whatever. So they're really coming up with some new stuff, some new sounds, and give them a chance. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause this again. Thanks, Mark and Steve, for everything. And
thank you.
Hold on just a second.